Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Kirby Monday, so we're looking at the next issue of his Fourth World Saga. This is more specifically Superman's pal, the new Jimmy Olsen, new ever since Kirby got on it. This is cover dated April 1971, issue number 137. A lot of hyperbole in the text on the cover. Let's go through it real quickly. Some of it applies and some of it kind of weird editorially doesn't actually work. Anyways, I'll get to it and read it and you'll know what I'm talking about. So Kirby brings them all together on the last day of the world. That's the kind of stuff I like in this kind of 70s DC Kirby period. All the bombastic hyperbole in the text. Love that stuff. Guest starring that resurrected rat pack of rollicking rowdies, the Newsboy Legion, plus their stalwart, how do you say that? Sires. I believe that's meant to reference their fathers, right? That we met a few issues ago. So the Newsboy Legion of the late 30s, early 40s are basically the parents of this newer version of the Newsboy Legion and the new Guardian, or I guess the new version of Guardian, not the old Guardian. Here's the thing though, the Newsboy Legion appear. Their stalwart sires and the Guardian do not. So a bit of a snafu editorially on that, but it's been talked about how Kirby was working really quick, and if he hadn't actually drawn out the issue yet, maybe he thought he was going to do that, but it kind of changed along the way, or he forgot to include those characters as he was kind of writing 4 titles all kind of at the same time, including Jimmy Olsen, New Gods, Forever People, and Mr. Miracle, which are the books we're kind of reviewing these days. Anyways, bred to challenge man and Superman, it lashes out in fury, a new destructive force, the four-armed terror. So hinted at in the silhouette here. Nice Kirby craggle in the rock there, which I like. Unfortunately, I'll mention it real quick again if you don't remember or haven't seen the previous videos. Superman's face is being redrawn by some house artists, DC style house artists, over Kirby stuff, so Superman looks uncharacteristically like what Kirby would draw him, but there are little instances that I'll point out even in this comic where I feel like a lot of the Kirby was actually left in, mostly in the faraway shots of Superman, and those I really appreciate. And in this issue as well, I'll point out that there's some Jimmy Olsen's face is also being modified, just like Superman's, right, to fit kind of the Superman style of the day, that kind of old school DC style they had going for Superman. Jimmy Olsen also will change kind of appearance and be more Jack Kirby-esque at a certain sequence that I'll point out, and I'll tell you why I think that is. So that's it for the cover. Let's have a look inside. Starting off with a nice splash page, and one of these kind of, I don't want to use the word awkward, but it seems like an odd crop to introduce the four-armed terror. To have him running towards us is great. It's a nice foreshortened shot. You got some foreground elements here which are cool, which like kind of almost recontextualize and make it as if there's 4 or 5 panels on this page, right? But to hide part of what is the conceit of this character, the fact that he has 4 arms, right, is kind of the most visually obvious in relation to his name, that you would cut out most of the arms there. So it's odd, but I still again kind of like it. I've talked about how some of these awkward Kirby crops is kind of part of his style, and I even that I kind of like. He's still breaking certain rules that people would like to say you have to kind of abide by, and he doesn't, and that's again makes his stuff distinctive. So it doesn't go for the double page splash in the next page 2 and 3 here, so kind of uncharacteristic from what he's doing at this period. That'll become, I guess he's maybe not, again, maybe he's drawn this issue way before he did the other ones. I don't know for sure. But it becomes a fairly standardized thing, maybe a little bit later than these Jimmy Olsen issues. So basically the four-armed terror just kind of shows up and attacks the furries, right, which is kind of Kirby's version of the hippies back then. There's something to their design here that I think I maybe have talked about, the fact that it really reminds me of some G.I. Joe characters from the 80s, but also I would say, I don't know if, Mad Max's creator read Marvel Comics or Jack Kirby comics over there all the way around the world in Australia, but it definitely feels like some of this would have some influence on the vehicles and kind of the looks of those Mad Max characters. So here's Kirby once again introducing interesting concepts. I don't know if I feel like Jimmy Olsen's face wasn't messed with here. Maybe that was kind of an oversight. It seems fairly Kirby-esque, whereas Superman's for sure no one missed that, and his kind of look has been changed here. kind of a cool, you know, typically Kirby splash, characters using just weird technology here. And this whole thing, I guess it's a sign of the times. Kirby was not into drugs, not that I know of, and I really don't think so. It doesn't seem of his generation. But I guess he was definitely interested in kind of hippie culture and stuff. And in a way here, he's using technology to kind of simulate, I guess, what the hippies were actually doing, maybe with like psychedelic drugs and stuff. So here they've got these kind of earphones and visors put on, and they're all kind of communing together here, trying what's this called, the solar phone, right? And it's like they can hear music and harmony and stuff. And you know, this is again Kirby really experimenting, trying different things when he gets to DC and he starts the Fourth World Saga. So boom, you get this cool splash here. I don't know if this was maybe a double splash that got cut down. I feel it's edited a little bit and kind of weird, but still I really enjoy it. It's again one of those experimentations Kirby did with collage in the background here, basically just using really abstract shapes and circles and kind of Kirby shapes, but again in a very abstract kind of way with, you know, nothing literal, I don't think, being used, right? Kind of giving that psychedelic effect. Of course, you know, printing was pretty limited back then, so this is about as great of a result as you'll get. Excuse me, but I do love how it evokes so much of like the 70s. I think I've mentioned that before, but that's just great to me. And, you know, I guess he kept the whole splash, double page splash for the later sequence in this issue, because boom, right, we get it here with the first page and now this page with more collage in the background. Maybe some more literal elements here with like sculptures and ornamentation. He's got some kind of what feels like, you know, maybe desert housing and dwelling, almost like a like in Star Wars, but pre-Star Wars. Planets and spaceships and, you know, interesting textures he got from I'm assuming ancient Latin American cultures here. Could be wrong on that. And just cutting out interesting shapes and using them here. And there's, again, a limitation in how it was published and in how they could convey that through print back in the 70s, but also the charm it has because of those limitations and because it's from the 70s. I'm sure, you know, if you guys have, you know, comics that are about 50 years old now, you know, this yellowing and stuff. I don't know if this was black and white and, you know, the paper yellowed and it almost starts looking more like a green. Maybe their gray is green based or something. I don't know, but it feels like there's a hint of color here, and maybe it was there at publication as well, because I don't feel like the actual colors on the figures here have faded too much. If, for one thing, the limitations of the background make the figures pop, you know, really well. So, but I love this stuff. And boom, they're pulled back to the real world. That was, you know, kind of a mass hallucination, basically, because they're being attacked. We've got problems. Report for a briefing. And then those horrible pages where, again, we see Superman from, and both Jimmy Olsen and Superman's faces, horribly redrawn in that DC house style. Hate it. And then, boom, we go back to Kirby. And here's an example, right? Here's Jimmy Olsen here, right? His face change. Someone seems to have missed it. I'll turn it, right? Because if you look at Jimmy Olsen on this page, I definitely feel like that's pretty much, you know, a Jack Kirby Jimmy Olsen that hasn't been messed with, right? Still Vince Colletta inking as well, right? So there's that slight limitation as well. But I do feel like the nose and the way the eyes are and stuff, this is the mouth is definitely all telltale, signs that this is definitely Jack Kirby, Jimmy Olsen not being messed with. So I think someone just missed that. And again, I talked about it earlier. There's another sequence that I'll point out too that's I think the same kind of thing happened. So the creature's still on a mission hounding the furries, right, the hippies, and makes his way to what they call the atomic pile. So I guess the project, as it's called, is powered by atomic power. I guess, you know, but even back in the early 70s, it was still kind of being touted as the energy source of the future. I could be wrong on that. I think they were starting to know there were problems with nuclear around that time. I don't know the timeline on that for sure. But yeah, I love these shots here. The furries' wooden infrastructure kind of being torn apart here by the creature, and them all trying to escape. Here's another page art-wise. Okay, I think we're getting, they still mucked with the head here, but what I like about this page is we get two far away kind of shots of Superman that I definitely feel, once again, maybe the face is played around with here, but most other, you know, the anatomy and stuff is very Kirby-esque. But this shot here, I feel is so kind of Kirby that there's nothing they could have done to really change it. The stark shadow, the foreshortening, even just the shadow for the eye sockets here, the cape and everything. This I feel is pretty authentic, just Kirby Superman. It's unfortunate again that you only get it in those faraway shots. Here's another one. I do think they mess with the face, but the positioning there is so Kirby. Very, very great stuff. And he finally faces off against the four-armed creature. And I like this kind of comment in the writing because Kirby doesn't get enough credit on his writing. Its combined arms give it amazing power, enough to make me worry. So, just actually saying the fact that he's strong, but also that, his strength is multiplied, well, by 2, I guess, since you only have double the arms if you got 4 arms. But yeah, that the fact that he can get hit more often is also what leads to his power, or feeling the effects of that power. Superman shrugs him off, and here's another shot that I think is mostly Kirby. And here's the interesting sequence with Jimmy Olsen, because in the sequence he's wearing this weird kind of helmet that he usually has. I think had it before when he drives the Supermobile, or I forget what it's called, the race car they all ride around in. And here, I definitely feel like that is Kirby Jimmy Olsen and Kirby Jimmy Olsen as well. I love just this shot too of Jimmy Olsen being so dark. The inker doing, maybe at a last editorial thing that they threw in the freckles here and realized it was Jimmy Olsen because it was too late. I don't know, because he's got the freckles here but not here. But that definitely is supposed to be Jimmy Olsen there. And not messed around with. Not yet anyways. Same thing here. I don't feel this has been messed around with. That's definitely an angular kind of Kirby profile. And even in this shot here. So luckily, either the inkers, the guys fixing this stuff just kind of missed that. Even here, I feel like that's mostly Kirby. Sometimes Kirby plots as they near the end kind of, there comes up with these kind of weird conceits. So all of a sudden the creature here can start generating, it says, he's too late around. He's weaving some kind of light around us. Not light, energy. He converts radioactive particles into some strange form of energy. And basically what he's doing is he's forming an egg around them to kind of trap them in there, which I think is just kind of funny and hilarious and pretty convenient as you get near the end of the issue to get the creature away from Superman and the Newsboy Legion and Jimmy Olsen. So just every once in a while, it's kind of the Deus Ex Machina, is that what it's called? When like just something comes out of convenience to finish the story or move it along to its inevitable end. So throws the egg away and continues on in what his original goal is to find food. And it seems like he feeds on nuclear energy. I could be wrong on that, but I think he's going towards like a nuclear core. Yeah, because in this sequence here, which I love, this kind of, only Kirby could design a diagram kind of machine like this, showing the creature's progress towards the core here into the main conduit, as he says here. And we are going to learn that these operators of this machine here are basically lackeys of Darkseid. And here's kind of the map of the whole layout of the city metropolis, but of course they're underground where the project resides. A lot of crazy underground stuff going on in Metropolis. It's never really been touched upon before Kirby did. And as you can see here, atomic power plant. So that is where a creature is heading. I love the kind of diagram aspect here. Almost looks like an engine, right? Or even, those old time water heaters that they would have in old houses and stuff. Looks great. And it's just kind of a simple, real quick, throwaway kind of, I don't want to say throwaway panel, but a diagram you look at quickly and move on. Two, again, New Gods, Apocalypse characters, right? Again, lackeys of Darkseid. Given this guy kind of almost the Planet of the Apes look, the kind of Calabac creature, animal, furry face look, it's been copied a lot, right? I like the design on this guy, who they call Makari, and that's with an O, because I think later there's a character in Eternals called Makari. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. And I just love that at this point with his designs and stuff, he's really creating a whole culture out of these designs, right? The New Genesis, New Gods, and even Apocalypse kind of culture. So the look and the aesthetic of their machines and their technology, that they use is just pure Kirby. And that's what I love about it, is just he's really going crazy. I've talked about, that sci-fi surrealist aspect that he's really pushing here. We're no longer really in superhero kind of territory, other than Superman is around, and even he's kind of interpreted very differently here, which I think is great. I'll need to talk about more when Superman makes more of a kind of a marked appearance in each issue. But getting back to Makari, the design elements, like I said, of the culture and what they wear, and the fact that he's used kind of a technical design element that he has in his art, the kind of squiggly line, right, that he uses for shadows and stuff, and now actually use those abstract elements as a design for this character and on his face, right, like these kind of tattooed markings or makeup or whatever that's meant to be. And he'll use more of it as kind of the decades move on, the 70s and the 80s, creating characters with those kind of design aspects, which are totally his own. And that's, again, why he's so unique and why I love his stuff so much. And leaves us just on a great splash page to finish off. I love these splash pages too, with the design where they leave just a kind of area at the bottom here. This is a good way to end the issue, I think, with a little bit of text and what's coming next, right? And it doesn't, it allows you to cut out a bit of the art there and not have to draw bits. It saves a little bit on time, I guess, for deadlines. And it's still a very striking image, kind of alien-esque, the first Alien movie, and Aliens, right? Where the monster of the story is hatched from an egg. Just kind of a cool visual here. Again, one of the many millions that Kirby gave us throughout his career, and that we'll be looking at more next time, because this issue here is done with for today's review. There you go, guys. That was my review of Superman's Pal, the new Jimmy Olsen, issue 137. If you're still watching and you're subscribed, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second for you, and it really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books. Helps us with YouTube. Once we hit that 500 subs milestone, YouTube's going to start helping us out and help spread the word about Big Baby reviews all over the internet. So thank you so much, guys, and have yourselves an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe!